Welcome to the KIPS Personal Trainer Application Podcast. My name is Tyler Valence, and I'm the president of KIPS, Kettlebell Concepts, and I'm also the owner of Time to Train Fitness. Today we have returning a great guest, somebody that means a lot to my education. She was one of my undergraduate professors at Cal State University of Long Beach. We have Dr. Ayla Donlin. She's the director of the LifeFit Center at Cal State University of Long Beach. She works with health and wellness. She's been a personal trainer, general manager, fitness instructor, professor, so many great things. And she's also, throughout the last year, really focused on growing her health and wellness business, which I believe is Ayla Donlin Wellness. So
you got it.
Ayla, thank you for coming on the podcast again to talk about a really great topic today.
Yeah, it is my pleasure, Tyler. Thank you for having me. And it was my honor having you as a student too. It's always great to reconnect with former students in their success now. So I want to congratulate you on that. And thanks for having me on as a guest.
Yes. And, coming back, having you on, but also previously had Dr. Jan Schroeder, who's a pioneer in the industry and somebody that meant a lot, again, to my education. And so coming back, connecting, having you share your wealth of knowledge is so great for the people that listen to the podcast. We really focus on the application of topics. And today we have something that I feel is something we haven't really talked about. Mostly we talk about how a trainer, a group exercise instructor can apply certain techniques with their clients. But today we're going to talk about themselves, the Fit Pro themselves, being able to work on themselves while they're all trying to help other people. So let's kick it off with our first question. As a fitness professional, I remember when I first came into the industry, I was very fortunate to have a job at a pretty high-end club in call it the South Bay in California. And with it, I was told about trying to have this separation between your clients, your home life, to have basically, a healthy mind with that. Where do you believe that healthy medium lives with the whole client relationship, home life, and all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah, those are such great questions. And I think that they are questions that even individuals that have years of experience in the industry, the fitness and wellness industries, still struggle with. So I'm happy to share some of my thoughts around that. And one of my passions is wellness for those who are serving others in fitness and wellness. So I was really excited that you wanted to take on this topic of wellness for the fitness professional, because I think so often we're so busy focusing in on the clients and the folks who we serve that we forget to turn the lens back toward ourselves and check in with that. So I really appreciate exploring this topic with you. And as far as that balance is concerned between our personal life and our professional life and the client-coach relationship and those boundaries, I think a great place to start, and many people do this, is to first really clearly establish your philosophy. So whether it's a coaching philosophy or a training philosophy, if you're a personal trainer, once you've clearly outlined and established that, I think it'll give you a better idea of where those boundaries are between personal and professional and the client-coach relationship. For example, I care deeply about all of my clients, and I want them to know that. With that said, I also take a lot of time to clearly define the client-coach relationship so that my clients know the boundaries around how they can contact me, how they can communicate with me, when they can communicate with me and expect a response, how much time and energy I'm going to be putting in at regular intervals, be it weekly, monthly. I make sure that all of that is really well defined so that I'm not setting up any false expectations for the client or for myself. But I also have no problem communicating with and telling my clients how much I care for them and how much I'm invested in their well-being during our sessions and outside of those sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And then to go back to the work-life balance or the personal professional balance, I find because I'm so incredibly passionate about what I do, that those lines actually blur a lot for me because I live and breathe what I do as well. And so it carries over into my family life, into my relationships with family and friends. And so again, I think it's an exercise in boundary setting in terms of I often will check in. So I'm married and I have a daughter. And so I'll check in with my husband and I'll check in on my relationship with my daughter. And I'll ask myself, I was actually just doing this on my run this morning. I was going through my list of priorities in life and then kind of doing a checks and balance of, okay, I know I'm clear on these as my priorities. Am I spending my time and my resources, so my energy, my money, am I spending those things according to how I've laid out my priorities? And that's something that I always encourage students and younger professionals who are establishing themselves and trying to find a balance with personal and professional to start there. So clearly identifying your philosophy, clearly identifying your priorities, defining clearly the client-coach relationship, and then establishing some boundaries around that.
Yeah, that sounds, I mean, it first reminds me of this one practice that I did when I was early on in the industry, and I always come back to this, and I've done a few of them then, but the whole personality trait tests that they have out there, the one that I did was a colors one, and you learn what each color means and whatnot, and the way that this one applied to all the personal trainers that day was about how to apply it to your clients so that you could better sell them. But if you take it one step further and you go back and you think about, oh, this is me. This color means I do these things. Okay, I can see that. I can see that. And sometimes it's a blend of certain personality traits that where you lie. Everybody's different. And so with that in mind, going back to thinking about how you act, how you interact with other individuals, and then applying that to the boundaries. I think that that's something that some people do not think about. They don't think about what is within my own realm. How can I set those boundaries and also feel comfortable with it? Because some people do have those relationships with the clients, positive relationships where they are constantly in communication, but that's part of their personality. They are those people that are constantly texting them, messaging them, because at the same time, we have to be that reminder for our clients sometime. Some clients might need a little bit extra attention. And so I like that you mentioned that about understanding the boundaries that you want to set as a personal trainer. And sometimes I think when we enter the industry, we forget those items because we just want to get as many clients, and we're afraid to lose clients at the same time because it's hard. It's hard to make it past that first year, couple months, even 2 years. So taking that into our next question with working with all these items, what type of advice can you give a fitness professional with creating those meaningful connections so you can get to that point where you can feel comfortable sharing that kind of stuff with your client?
Yeah, exactly. And that's a big part of the retention process as well, right? Is building the relationship and establishing the meaningful connection. And that's a retention practice that we know is a best practice in the industry. And this relates to both the question that you just asked and our first question, which is one of the ways to look at it too. I think self-awareness is one of our most powerful tools as individuals, as wellness coaches, as personal trainers. So the more self-awareness that you can create and cultivate, be it by taking strengths assessments, personality assessments, just observing and assessing yourself and how you operate with clients, the more self-awareness you can create there, the better you're able to serve your clients and operate from a space where you're taking good care of yourself and setting boundaries appropriately so that you can engage with your clients in the way that you want to. And I think equity is a good word to use as far as then from that space, trying to engage with our clients in a way that's equitable, because as you referenced, that's going to look different across our clientele. There might be some clients who do need more touch points. There's other clients who are more hands off. And so the better we can get to know our clients as well, then the better we can decide, okay, how can I engage equitably with my clients, providing them a consistent, stable service, but it's not going to look cookie cutter for everybody. It's going to be molded to what each individual needs based on their personality and their background and their communication style as well. And so I think that's something that we learn as we evolve and develop in the industry, and as we serve more clients, as we get a better handle on our agility around how can I equitably serve these different clients. And so I actually wrote down 3 steps or 3 techniques or tips that I would provide fitness professionals, fitness and wellness professionals, in terms of establishing and cultivating meaningful connections. So the first is gratitude. To never hesitate to express your gratitude to a client for signing up to train with you, for giving their best effort in a session, for communicating effectively according to the boundaries and the relationship that you've established, for renewing their sessions or their packages. Offering gratitude, simply saying thank you, goes so far and establishes such a meaningful connection. Second thing, and this references the self-awareness and becoming aware of our clients as well, is taking a strengths-based approach. So knowing your strengths as a trainer, and there's all kinds of assessments that you can take around this. One of my favorite is the VIA survey of character strengths, and it gives you your top 5 character strengths with a description of them. And I actually really like to have my clients take that assessment as well, so that I can know my strengths as a coach, and I know my clients' strengths as well, and then I can mold their sessions and the way that I coach them accordingly. And I can pull out and draw out their strengths and approach the session and approach the training and the practice from their strengths, as opposed to constantly honing in on limitations or shortcomings, which in the end just makes you feel like you're kind of banging your head against the wall, both you and your client. So to take that strengths-based approach where you're really focusing on your client's strengths and your strengths as you're engaging together. And then the third is active listening. This is such a powerful skill in our professional life and in building these meaningful connections with our clients. And it's just such a wonderful skill in all of our relationships, be it with our friends, our family, and then coming back to the clients. And active listening is more than just listening to someone speak. It's really giving them our full attention, reflecting back what they've said, asking if we can summarize to make sure that we've heard and understood clearly, and confirming with them that we've heard what it is they're trying to tell us. That is so powerful in building and establishing those meaningful connections. So those 3 again were: lead from gratitude, don't hesitate to express it, take a strengths-based approach and get clear on your strengths and your client's strengths, and then listen actively on a regular basis.
Yeah, I dig those a lot, especially the showing gratitude with your clients and telling them how you appreciate certain things or a variety of things. I think that also kind of blends into your professionalism as a personal trainer. And once your clients see that you are offering a professional service, the business of it becomes easier. I know it's sometimes hard at first to ask for money or ask for them to re-sign, but when they understand that transactional part of it and that you are professional with it, it becomes so much easier. And it's almost as if just a little small thing that you have to go through every single client. And and this is a kind of a tangent here, because in the first part, we talked a little bit, or you mentioned that the home life, your husband, your daughter, and that home life part of it, with the whole meaningful relationships and connections with them. when did that become a part of your mindset? And what I'm trying to ask here is like, when did that come back to you as, okay, I need to start incorporating that more into myself, but also with my clients? I feel like that's such a unique part of the way that I've heard you phrase things, but also the way that I've seen you post about these things on social media. And it just came to my mind.
Yeah. I think I'll try to answer your question as succinctly as I can, but I could probably talk about this for a long time. I think these practices and this type of an approach really started to become more of my personal and professional practice during my doctoral program. My doctoral dissertation was exploring well-being and the connection of our well-being to our vocational identity. Vocational identity being our sense of clarity around our strengths, our interests, and how that connects and engages with our professional career. So I looked at the relationship between how we experience well-being and how we're pursuing and exploring our career path and living that out. And so I think I started to learn more and more about a lot of these practices, and these practices apply to our professional life, but they also apply to our personal life. And I've seen them play out in my relationship with my husband, and now with my daughter. I'm practicing strengths-based parenting with my daughter, and will choose to do that throughout her, throughout as she's growing up. Right now she's 2.5, so her strengths right now are like eating and running around. No, she's already demonstrating so much empathy and kindness, like these beautiful qualities that I want to make sure that I recognize and continue to draw out. So in the same way that I would do that with my family, with my students that I engage with in my role at the university, both at the LifeFit Center and then as adjunct faculty, and then with all the clients that I serve too. Does that address what you were looking for with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think the part with your dissertation really helps clarify, because it's that realization, I think, is the part that any professional will have to uncover or encounter, is probably the more appropriate word, in their life, the importance of strengthening your home life and how that benefits your career. And with that change, I'm going to call it a change, but recognizing it within your posts on social media, I feel it helps you connect with your audience, because at the same time, your audience is able to connect with those posts more. They could see, oh, okay, she is a working professional, has the home life, and all these items that maybe they're going through too. And I will say that I'm typically a pretty even though I do a podcast and I do tutorials, I'm on YouTube with stuff and whatnot, I'm generally pretty I'll say quiet person on certain items. There's been months where I will not post anything on social media, and there's different factors in that. But then I started to see over the last few months, when I did put more time into a post, I would write long form descriptions for what it was, maybe what was going on with work, home life, or whatever that is. I saw more responses for it. People engaged more with it. And maybe some other people were going through those types of things. So I think that that's really something to take away for fitness professionals, is that part of their career. And the next one we're going to move to is, it can be a hot topic, I think. The more popular or hot part of it is when fitness professionals will argue about, do you have to be a fit personal trainer or a fit instructor to be in this industry? And, as a fitness professional, you are trying to relay healthy habits to your clients. You're trying to teach them all these things, these routines, tell them about the science behind it, why you should be doing it, having them buy in. You're using all types of techniques in order to get this. So what about now with the instructor themselves? What are your tips for those individuals that are trying to relay this information, but how do they maintain a healthy lifestyle themselves?
Yeah, and I think we're looking at a time right now at this point in history during a pandemic where that is more challenging than ever before, right? In terms of practicing these things for ourselves and helping to impart and empower our clients to practice their own wellness routines and best habits, the behavioral habits that we're trying to help them establish.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that I like to frame it, Tyler, is rather than us as the fitness and wellness professionals feeling this sense of obligation, which can be heavy, like feeling this sense of obligation to be a role model and live these things out perfectly. Otherwise, we're not doing it right. And we need to have a perfect body and we need to have perfect practices and always hit our morning routine and our evening routine and show that all over social media. I actually think people really appreciate when we're real, when we say, you know what? I missed my morning routine this morning because I recognized that I actually just needed that extra 30 minutes of sleep. And so I took it. And how I look at it instead is I look at it as an invitation, especially during this time of the pandemic. It's an invitation for us to really put into play and really put into practice these wellness routines and habits and establish them for ourselves and live them out for ourselves so that our clients can see that we're doing the best that we can do, that we don't always get it perfect. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that empowers our clients to not feel like they have to get it right all the time, every time as well, because that's not sustainable. We want people, my 3 key words are simplicity, consistency, sustainability. Typically, simple practices are the ones that we can maintain the most consistency with. Consistency to me is the queen of all things fitness and well-being. And if we can sustain practices over time, then that means we're in it for the long haul. And that's where we get to be our best and most well self.
Agreed.
Yeah. So
Agreed.
I wrote down 3 things that I would share in terms of what are some things that we could do as fitness professionals and things that we can model to our clients and just to the general population in general. And again, with no pressure to get these perfect at all. I think number 1, morning and evening routines are huge. I think to establish and to set boundaries around and to stay consistent with morning and evening routines, it's such a powerful wellness practice. So in the morning, whatever that looks like for you, it could be waking up and drinking some water, meditating, journaling, just to kind of get grounded in the morning, having a workout, having a healthy breakfast, whatever that looks like. And then in the evening, that's really what helps us establish our rhythm for our circadian rhythm as well, to do its wind down and have not just a long enough period of sleep, but quality of sleep, which we know is so important. And I think you and I talked about that last time I was on.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 2 other things, second thing would be to really take some time to define your most well self. And you can do that by simply reflecting on that, or you can journal to the prompt, I am my most well when. And then just bullet point out, when are you your most well? It's establishing this vision of you at your best, at your most well. And then you get to take a look around and say, oh, these are the things that are happening or that I'm taking action on. These are the behaviors I'm engaging in when I'm my most well. And sometimes it takes stepping back and being reflective about it to actually realize some of the most important things in our lives for us to feel well. And then the third thing is, we've talked about this a lot, but it's worth saying again, defining boundaries. And I'm not talking about that just with clients now. I'm talking about boundaries in life as far as, who are you in touch with? Who are you surrounding yourself with? How much time are you spending with those people? What other types of practices or behaviors are you engaging in, and setting some boundaries around that? Here's a simple example. it's bedtime. So many of us take our phones to bed with us, and that creates an additional hour or more of just kind of mindless wandering or even anxiety creation, and then stimulation from the light from the phone, even if you've got the different settings that you can take. And so is that a boundary to set? No phone in bed, no phone in the bedroom. Those types of boundaries are what I'm talking about too. And then having some agility around that. If I've learned anything in the pandemic, it's how to be agile every day, to have a plan going into the day, to set boundaries around my routines in the day, but then to be ready for whatever life is going to throw at any given day, and to offer myself some grace and some agility around that. So those are the three like big things that I would share.
I like that a lot. I really do. And those are things that people can apply immediately, right after listening. And I will admit that for myself, I'm a routine person, and it's really what helps me get through each day is I have the things that I do every single morning. And there was a point, I'll admit, that sometimes I would feel bad that I was taking this time to do my normal routine. And I think that's the part where individuals have to remember this is either your time or this is part of your routine, your morning routine that sets you up for the rest of the day. So do not feel bad about the example that I'm going to provide here is that there's often times where I won't take certain meetings until a certain time in the day, just because I want to make sure that I complete my morning routine. And a part of it is work. I'm having to do marketing items for the various companies that I work with or for. And with that, it's making sure that I do those so that I'm not having to think about those after. And so there's typically a time frame where I take my meetings, and then I generally do not take any more after that, because there's a point where you just got to get work done. You got to make sure that you get stuff done. And the story that I always tell and some people that do work with me, they notice these types of things, is that I forgot what documentary I was watching. I think it was on Bill Gates, and Bill Gates's father was sitting with Bill and Warren Buffett. And they are good friends, and he mentions, I want you both to write down one word on what you guys can contribute to your guys' success. And they both wrote down focus. And I feel like that's something that I took away from hearing that, in terms of when I am working on certain things, whether it's my morning routine, focus on that, get those items done, or after when I'm not taking any more calls, focus on your work, get stuff done. And the last item I do want to share, and what's reminded me, was the whole sleeping one, because I know that many times in my life I've been at fault with taking either a computer. I generally take a computer up to the bed with me, or with the phone and the screen time. And something that off camera we've talked about is, even if I wasn't recording right now, I'd probably be wearing my blue light glasses, just because it helps with how much light or how much screen time we have, especially throughout these last few months. And so with all of that, the routines and disconnecting, I feel like that's the one part I wanted to relay, was that I try to implement at least 30 minutes, an hour, to just disconnect from those items, spend that time with my wife and my cats, and we're generally just watching TV, but just disconnect from all the stuff from the day, and just have that time to relax, unwind, and then get some good sleep. So those are really good tips for Fit Pros listening, is having those routines and making sure that you do get the quality sleep to recharge, especially if you are practicing yourself those healthy habits. It takes a toll on you. Strength training, train yourself, being on your feet, helping other people, all that stuff takes a big toll on the body. So making sure you get quality recovery, mentally, physically, all that kind of good stuff. And with this next question, then this is one where I'm going to be learning, because we talked about this question before, and we're talking about reframing. And I want to know too, how do you describe reframing?
Yeah, well, I'm really happy to be talking about this, and I'm sure we'll be able to come up with all kinds of examples as we define it and talk through it. I want to congratulate you, Tyler. Those were great examples that you just gave of boundary setting. So it's really clear that you've done a lot of work already in your life in terms of, setting boundaries and establishing those. So kudos and congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yes. So reframing would be looking at an event or a series of events or a series of time and what has transpired, and shifting or shaping how we're looking at it, how we're interpreting it, or maybe our attribution to why something happened the way that it did. So it can happen retrospectively like that, where we reframe, and it can also happen real time or proactively in terms of how we're redefining or approaching something. And I'll give you a couple of specific examples. First, from the example of like present moment, and then looking forward would be, during this pandemic, many of us have had to reframe how we define and look at productivity, because it's had to shift and change in so many different ways. As many of us shifted from working in person to working from home, working virtually, what that looks like and how we interact and engage with our clients, our colleagues, has had to shift and change. And now maybe we're balancing more than just work. Like, for example, right now that I'm at home, I'm also home with a 2.5-year-old, and that's going to look a lot different than when I'm going into the university and engaging in my work there. So I've had to reframe what I look at as a productive day. All of the items on my to-do list, I'm a big to-do list, and I love that satisfaction of checking off the item, right? And I'm part of my personality is I'm an achiever. And so to have a to-do list and achieve finishing those items feels really good to me. And I found myself at the beginning of the pandemic still generating just as long of a to-do list as I was pre-pandemic. And I was experiencing this additional stress and angst that I could feel. And I had to say, time out. It's time for me to reframe. I need to redefine how I'm looking at my productivity day to day. And so that's the example, one specific example of like present moment or looking forward productivity. And then retrospectively, an example of reframing, right? I'll give you a specific example. Experiencing, and this kind of relates to the productivity piece, experiencing some frustration around how long it can feel like it takes to accomplish or achieve certain things during this time. But then looking back and reframing and saying, yeah, but you know what? I also got to spend a lot of great time with my daughter, Lucy, and here's what that looked like. And despite having to balance that, I was also still able to get that done. And then I took the time to meaningfully connect with my neighbor who needed my help, which took me away from a project and made it take longer. But the reframe is going back to my priorities and going back to meaningful connection, saying the reframe as, yes, eventually it did get done, but I was able to do these other things which are incredibly important and meaningful to me as well. So those are just a couple of examples of reframing. I'm open to any like follow-up questions or providing any clarity.
No, I think that's great with the reframing of things, because I think people will sometimes take their normal routines as that's the way that should be. But when things change in life, sometimes we have to look back at, okay, this might be the new norm. This might be how I need to look at things moving forward. I need to reframe how I look at it, so I'm not constantly beating myself up and taking myself down for things that are out of my control. I think that was one of the phrases that I learned earlier in life was, it's things that are out of your control. You got to sometimes just let those go and just focus on the things that you can control. And those might be your daily routines, what you do before bed, how you think about certain items. So I like that a lot. I really do. I think that especially now as we keep coming back to during a
Yeah.
pandemic, looking back at how you can be productive. And a good health example, I would say, is that when people think about, oh, I need a gym. I might sound biased just because, of course, I own a online streaming business that you are
Sure.
part of. Now you are part of that.
Yes.
That people think that, oh, I need a gym to be healthy, but
Yep.
you might need to look at that situation. See, how can I still get my health, and what are those things that I do have access to? And especially now, hopefully, people can look at those things and realize, okay, I can do my morning exercise at home or in my neighborhood, and find those ways to approach those items. So that'd be my health and fitness example for that.
That is a perfect example of a reframe. And I did that. I like going to the gym. I enjoy the gym, but I've reframed and realized how much I enjoy working out outside, using the equipment that I have, and engaging in these virtual streaming services. I'm pumped to come on board with Time to Train and be a part of that. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that as we go on. And so that's been a great reframe for me. And I think
Mm-hmm.
another important part of the definition uh, is how we attribute things and how we interpret things can be a part of the reframe. And what's really popular right now is mindset and the term growth mindset. And so
Mm-hmm.
reframing is a skill set that's a part of growth mindset. So fixed mindset is where you feel like you can't learn anything new. What you've got is what you've got. You're not capable of changing or evolving or growing, that you are where you are, you're stuck, you're fixed. Growth mindset is everything is a learning opportunity. With every shortcoming or what we might deem failure, there's something to learn from. And I have then the opportunity to change and grow and evolve. And so I think reframing is really a part of that growth mindset mentality, where it's like, whatever comes at me, I'm looking at it as an opportunity to learn, grow, cultivate more self-awareness, and move forward as positively as possible.
100%. It is a mindset that I myself, subscribe to, and I think it's a big part of what I do and what I believe in, helping others and all that kind of stuff, is learning from those opportunities in life. And that's why I believe so much in education and the importance of education in multiple areas. So, with that's a good little transition to our podcast takeaway for the day. So with the podcast takeaways, we always try to find something that the people listening, tuning in, can take away immediately, apply immediately. And so people listening for this episode might feel like, oh, wow, like I want some more resources for myself. I might want to jump more into certain topics that were discussed throughout the episode. So what are some resources that you recommend for fitness professionals that want to subscribe for more wellness opportunities?
Yes, I got all kinds of them that I'm gonna throw at you. I want to revisit real quick the keys that we shared throughout the episode, because that will help us frame how these resources can be used. So when establishing meaningful connections, lead with gratitude, take a strengths-based approach, and practice your active listening. When you're working on your healthy habits, and again, it was an invitation to really look in and establish your own wellness routine and behaviors. Recommendations were establishing a morning and an evening routine, defining your most well self, and then defining boundaries around your day and those routines and your relationships, and then having some agility within that. I think another key piece is recruiting some accountability. Whoever that might be from, if it's from your significant other, a close friend, if you work with a coach, of course, if you are a coach or trainer, you're providing that accountability for others. And sometimes we forget that as the coach or the trainer, we also need to reach out and ask for that accountability. So I call that recruiting accountability, and that will help us in establishing those things. And then practice reframing by taking on a growth mindset and seeing events that transpire as opportunities to learn and grow and build. So some resources that can help with those things. I'm a big fan of meditation. I think meditation does a wonderful job of helping us to create space in between the stimulus, what happens, and how we respond or react to it. And that little space between what happens and how we react to it can be so powerful and meaningful because it gives us control. It gives us control of how we're interacting, how we're engaging, how we're responding to something. So I want to recommend 2 apps. There's plenty of apps for meditation out there, but the 2 that I found that I like the most are Headspace and Calm. And I know those are probably 2 of the bigger apps. Both of them offer free trials. And actually Headspace is offering folks in LA County a longer free trial. So if you go to the LA County website and just look for Headspace, you'll see an offering where you can actually get a free Headspace subscription for an extended period of time, which is great. And then Calm is offering extended free subscriptions to folks who are Kaiser Permanente subscribers, I should say. So if you have Kaiser Permanente as your insurance, then you could actually get some free Calm subscription through that, which is really nice. But both of them offer free trials. Headspace is 14 days, and I think Calm is 7 days. But those resources that I mentioned are ways that you can subscribe for a longer period of time.
Nice.
So those are great for meditation. And then if you're looking for other meditation resources, I have on my website and my YouTube channel. So my website is ayladonlinwellness.com. And there's a link to my YouTube channel on my website. And I have a playlist on my YouTube channel that's dedicated entirely to mindful meditations of varying lengths, anywhere from 2 minutes up to 10 minutes right now, I think, are the different variations of duration. So folks can check that out as an opportunity as well for some meditation. And then on my website, there's also a blog, and that has all kinds of resources for healthy recipes, tips for sleeping better. I just recently wrote a blog that was titled 3 Keys to a Bedtime Routine for Better Sleep, for higher quality sleep. So folks can check that out. Another highly recommended resource would be the podcast, The Happiness Lab with Dr. Laurie Santos. She also offers a free course through Coursera that's called The Science of Wellbeing. So a lot of these concepts that we've talked about today, she teaches about in this free 10-week course through Coursera called The Science of Wellbeing. And then a lot of those concepts are talked about on the Happiness Lab, her podcast as well. Those are great. Cool. Couple of other resources. I use the Whoop app. I actually use 2 different Whoop apps. There's a WOOP and there's a WHOOP. So the WOOP Whoop app stands for Wish Outcome Obstacle Plan. And as a part of my morning routine, I go through those prompts for my day. So I pick one key primary wish for the day, you input it into the app, and then you think about the outcome and you spend some time envisioning the outcome of, if I accomplish this goal or this wish, what would that look like? What would that feel like? And then you take some time to think about the obstacles that are going to be in the way of that. That's the second O. And you think about those obstacles so that you can establish P, the plan, so that you can think about, if this happens, then I will do this. When this obstacle comes up, here's how I will address it and still achieve my goal. So I highly recommend that app, WOOP, the Whoop app. And then I use the Whoop strap, you can see that, and the app mostly to track my sleep. I know people use different sleep tracking tools. It also tracks heart rate variability, which I really like because that tells me how much I am ready to put out as far as like energy and pushing myself in a workout. And it tells me, is my sleep high quality sleep? Because typically if you're getting better sleep, then you're going to have higher heart rate variability because you are better recovered, your nervous system is in a better state. And so I use that as just a way of physiologically kind of measuring what's my sleep like, how are my workouts going, am I getting accurate recovery, and am I ready to kind of push to the next level again. So those are just a few resources that I would recommend, and plenty more up my sleeve for when we have another episode.
I dig it. All great stuff. Really great stuff that I hope listeners go check them out, download them, download the apps, or go to the websites that you mentioned, find those resources. Because they all sound great. Really great stuff there. And as we wrap this episode up, I want to take this time to make sure that I know that you have an event coming up in January, but can you also share your social media links as well?
I will. I'm on Instagram as @Ayla Donlin Well. I'm on Facebook as Ayla Donlin Wellness, and I would welcome you to connect with me there. My website is ayladonlinwellness.com. And if you go to ayladonlinwellness.com, you will see, and all of my social links and handles are on my website as well. So you can always default by going to ayladonlinwellness.com to connect with me via social media as well. And there's the link to my YouTube channel that I mentioned there. The event that I have coming up in January, I'm so excited about. So my audience for my wellness coaching and consulting business, my primary audience is moms. Obviously, I'm living that lifestyle right now, so that really resonates with me, and I enjoy so much connecting with moms. The event in January is called Mommy Be Well, and it's the Mommy Be Well Founders Club 14-day party. We're going to take 14 days to really focus in on prioritizing our wellness in the new year. We're going to focus in on 4 realms of wellness: physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual. We talked about those on the last podcast episode that I was on with you, Tyler. And with each of those 4 realms, we're going to try to perform at least one activity in each realm by the end of each week. So it's a 2-week event. And I'm going to be providing all kinds of resources. For example, a daily journal to log your wellness activities and how you're feeling with your wellness. So to log, just to check in and gauge, where am I at with my wellness? Am I living my most well right now? I'm going to provide pre-recorded workouts for folks to do at their leisure, pre-recorded meditations for folks to have access to, healthy recipes that individuals can use. We're also going to be having live group meditations and live social opportunities as well. You can find out more about the Mommy Be Well Founders Club event on my website at ayladonlinwellness.com. And there's information on how to register and everything else related to that event on the website as well.
Very cool.
It's January 4th through the 17th, I should say.
I dig it. A great way to start off 2021 after a interesting 2020, to say the least. So I dig it. Good stuff. Ayla, I got to say, I can't say enough about how much I appreciate you coming on the podcast now twice. So many great tips for the fitness instructors themselves, the Fit Pros, that they can listen, take and apply to themselves to make their businesses better, their careers better, their home life better, all that kind of good stuff that I haven't talked about those items in the podcast yet. So really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Tyler. Thanks for having me.
Great stuff.